Hello, and welcome to an impromptu episode of Hitch Explains It All. I'm Hitch. I'm gonna be by myself today, mainly because I didn't really even know that this thing was going on today, but let me just go ahead and jump right into it in case the title on top of the screen doesn't tell you what's going on. Today was the press conference for the PlayStation Experience event. Which is pretty cool. I personally really love press conferences. Like when E3 comes around, it's like that's my Super Bowl. Like I freaking love E3. I love watching those press conferences. Every year I get disappointed by something, but that's kind of the fun of it. Is getting to see what the companies come out and bring up, and it's pretty cool. And I'm thinking that because normally whenever a press conference happens, I tend to just kind of go on Twitter and be like da 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 da, and it gets really hard to kind of condense my thoughts into a lot of what I need to do in like 140 characters. I sometimes want to get really kind of ranty and rambly, and with some of these games and whatnot. So I figure that from now on, whenever there's a press conference or anything like that, I think I'm just going to go ahead and do a podcast format like this one. In future, especially when E3 comes around, I'll see if somebody else can hop on with me, so that it's not just my voice that you're hearing. But for this one, especially since like I completely forgot that this thing was even happening today. Before we actually kind of get into like the content of the press conferences, I should really kind of explain how I watched this conference, because I was actually at work today. I work at an airport, fueling the planes, and I saw on Twitter that that this thing was going to be happening today, and of course, it was going to happen while I was still at work. And on top of that, it was going to happen while I was going to have planes on the ground that I needed the fuel. As it got closer and closer to the actual event, like I was seeing it on the PlayStation sort of view, just like, oh, but feed starts in 45 minutes. Just like, you know what? I'll just go ahead and blow a bunch of my data on my phone and go ahead and try and watch this. So that is kind of something to keep in mind, is that I was watching this on my cell phone at work. There were times where I had to put the phone into my pocket, so there's a few things that I missed. Like when it comes to a lot of the indie games that they did about halfway through, I ended up having to do a really large fuel load. So a lot of that was in my pocket, and so I missed a couple of things. When it comes to this press conference, which it's kind of cool because I really do like the PlayStation experience, because it more or less, it's kind of like they went ahead and said, like, hey, a lot of people like going to E3, but it's a press-only thing, so we're going to go ahead and have, like, an extra one for everyday people to come to and see. And that's really neat. That's really cool. I like that idea, and I like that it is very fan service heavy. I typically really like when companies do fan service like that, because I think that it shows that they're paying attention to the community that's going on in gaming right now. And I think out of the big three companies, the ones who have their fingers on the pulse of the gamers right now is definitely Sony out of everyone else. I think Microsoft is kind of there. I think they're kind of losing it a little bit, but I think they're starting to get it back. And I think Nintendo has completely lost their minds. But anyway, Nintendo is a whole nother topic on another day, and I think they're supposed to be having another press conference sometime soon, one of their Nintendo Directs, which, when they do, I'll go ahead and make another one of these. But yeah, so this whole entire thing is kind of like an extra conference that we're getting. We're just like, all right, cool, a whole bunch of new announcements. And it opens up with this really funny video of like this old guy just going, all these youngsters have it so easy today with the gaming. And that was really a really fun video. I really enjoyed that. It just the attitude of the entire thing, because it's really easy for me and people my parents' age, like those two different generations, to kind of look at what's going on in gaming right now and be like, oh, you guys have it really easy. So it's really fun to see that they kind of played a little bit of a trick on that, kind of turned it on its head, and it was a fun intro. Like, it was well done. It really kind of got you in the mood to learn more about these games. And of course, immediately they went ahead and dove into the newest Uncharted game, which I've said this before on the other video I did about a year ago on my problems with the PlayStation 3 era of generational games. I don't like Uncharted. The Uncharted series, I don't like any of it. It really comes down to that one. I think the characters are boring. I think the environments are boring. Like, it's just generally a really boring game. And, like, none of the gameplay elements are really that fun or interesting. So, basically, they opened up with this thing that I'm not really all that interested in. And from what I saw, because I saw, like, the first part of it, because then a plane started coming in. And it was basically just Nathan's brother comes back from the dead or something like that. Well, apparently he was dead. He came back. Again, I really don't give two shits about this thing, but cool, I guess. I mean, because I played 1 and 2. I didn't even bother with 3, but I personally don't remember him ever saying he had a brother. Maybe that was something that came up in 3. I don't know, or the PS Vita exclusive game or whatever. But again, like, it's just one of those things where, again, like, it's so generic. Especially that angle, just like, it's a long lost brother and he's coming back and he has problems that Nathan Drake needs to handle. And it's, again, like, it's just so contrived and just treaded ground that's been done before and done a lot better. And it's just, I just don't have any interest in any of those games. And I mean, like, if you're looking forward to it, fine, but man, I don't get the hype for that series at all. I just don't. But anyway, then they moved on to something I do care about, which is the Final Fantasy VII remake. And I was, during this year, I think that was probably the biggest surprise from E3 this year, was seeing that was actually getting remade. And it was pretty much just that one CG trailer that we got, which was the big announcement trailer, which honestly was pretty much all that we needed. But this time around, they went ahead and showed gameplay. And they showed a lot of the kind of story stuff that happens within that first, I don't know, hour or two of the game, where you're going through the Machinima base with Barrett. And it's cool. Like, graphically, it looks amazing. Barrett looks fucking awesome. And if I'm getting the name wrong, one of the reasons why is that when I play RPGs like that and they give you the option to change the character's name, I always change the character's names to something else. So I rarely will ever remember what the character's actual name was. Like, with Barrett, I renamed him Big Susan. So that character is forever known in the back of my head as Big Susan. But anyway, so yeah, it looks really cool. Just graphically, it looks phenomenal. And one of my first memories of when I started watching the E3 press conferences was actually the year that the PlayStation 3 was coming out. And when they released that tech demo for Final Fantasy VII, I remember it just being just completely wowed by everything that was going on the screen with that tech demo. Like, it was just so graphically gorgeous and everything else. And then it was revealed that it was just a tech demo. And, it's whatever. It was sad, unfortunate. I think Final Fantasy VII is a really fun game. And that was pretty much it. And then this year, for them to come out and say that they're actually doing a remake after all this time, which that was back in like 2005, 2006, like well over 10 years ago. It's really cool to see that this thing is happening. And so, like, graphically, voice acting wise, everything looks great. Here's kind of where things get kind of odd. Because originally with Final Fantasy VII, it was turn-based. And I like turn-based combat. I think turn-based combat is great. I really don't understand why Square Enix wants to keep spicing up turn-based combat, especially with something like Final Fantasy 13, where they really streamlined it, where it was pretty much just kind of on autopilot the entire time. And with this one, it doesn't necessarily look like it's on autopilot, but it looks like Kingdom Hearts, which I honestly don't mind, because I really do like Kingdom Hearts' gameplay, but I can see that really ticking off a lot of the hardcore fans for Final Fantasy VII. And I'm not really too sure why they went ahead and did away with the old combat system, because again, the old combat system worked really well. It worked really well with Machinima, or the Materia system, and again, like, it was really fun. I really loved how that was set up, where you can basically have any character that you want in your party, to make them cast any kind of spell that they wanted, and that was a really cool game mechanic that I liked. And with this, it really makes me question if you'll be able to play as anybody else outside of Cloud. Like, if it does play like Kingdom Hearts, can you, like, say, switch over to play Tifa? Or play as Yuffie or Barrett? And if you're playing as someone like Barrett, who is gun-based, is there a whole entire another control scheme? Like, does it turn into, like, the Dirge of Cerberus game that was on the PlayStation 2? So I'm really kind of interested to see what's going on. More with gameplay. Like, I'd actually like to get my hands on it and actually try it out. Because I think if it was like Kingdom Hearts, I think it probably could be a lot of fun. But if it's like Final Fantasy 13, where it really is just kind of setting up moves for the characters to do outside of actually getting able to perform them, that could get really tedious and really repetitive, which is the biggest downfall for Final Fantasy 13 and all those other games. So it's really interesting. I'm a little bit skeptical of what it could do, but at the same time, man, if it plays like Kingdom Hearts, I'm really excited. Because it could be really cool, especially if you have multiple characters to play through. So yeah, I guess bottom line, when it comes to Final Fantasy VII Remake, I'm completely and totally on board for it. I think it looks cool and awesome. Then they went on to the Call of Duty thing, which I don't play shooters very often, and Call of Duty is one of those series I tend not to really care that much about, but the Call of Duty news doesn't really so much impress me as a gamer, but I think that says a lot about PlayStation right now, that they've gotten the Call of Duty franchise from Microsoft, and that they have complete dominance over it now. They're getting the content a lot earlier, and the fact that they're doing this like multi player like tournament thing for Call of Duty. That's really cool. That's really cool that they've been able to do that, and it really kind of makes me question, like, where exactly did Microsoft slip up with Call of Duty? It's hard for me to be interested in it because it is Call of Duty, but at the same time, I know a lot of people like Call of Duty. I don't judge anyone who likes Call of Duty. It's just one of those things that I was never able to get into. But it's cool. It's cool that they're doing this whole entire tournament thing on the PlayStation system. So it's cool. I like it. Guess go ahead and move on. Battleborn. Okay, so I'm actually really looking forward to Battleborn. Like I said earlier, I'm not really big into shooters, but this looks cool. I love the art style that it has going for it. It's very like Saturday morning kind of cartoonish, but still very action heavy. A really nice mix of fantasy and sci-fi. A nice blending of those kind of two materials with each other. And the big announcement that they did was that they pretty much promised that not only is this game going to be focused heavily on multiplayer, but there's going to be a very extensive single-player campaign with split screen co-op, online co-op, and single player mode, which is awesome, because that was kind of my biggest fear about wanting to get the game, was that it looked really cool, and I was willing to give it a try for multiplayer, because again, like, it just looks fun. It looks like a blast. Um, and I was really worried that it wasn't going to have any multiplayer in it. And there's going to be, that there wasn't going to be any single player. And there is. And it's supposed to be pretty extensive. So I'm really looking forward to it. And of the characters that they announced, this new one that they did today, Toby, was phenomenal. Like, I was laughing my ass off when he showed that guy's trailer. He's a little penguin guy who pilots this giant mech that just shoots like death lasers everywhere, and he has this high squeaky voice that just like, yeah, suck my dick, you know. Just, he might be my main. I don't know. I kind of instantly fell in love with that character. It was pretty awesome. Again, just the idea of a penguin in a mech suit, just shouting just death threats at people in a really high squeaky voice, that gets me happy. Like that tickles my funny bone, if you will. So yeah, that's really cool. I'm really excited for Battleborn. I'm actually considering, like, I currently don't have a PlayStation 4. I'm hoping to get one sometime soon. Maybe come tax season. But Battleborn is a game I'm really interested in getting. Like, if I could, I'd probably get it day one. I'd probably pre-order it if I could. So that was cool. So yeah, Battleborn. Pretty excited about that one. And then we go into Street Fighter 5. So, like what I mentioned with the last episode of the podcast, when it comes to Street Fighter, I'm just really kind of against them removing a lot of elements of story, a lot of the elements of character. Like, in terms of like a single player campaign, there really isn't anything. It's gotten to this point, especially with Capcom, where yeah, it's cool that they're releasing a new numbered game, but I'm just really worried about them, like, 6 months later coming out with Super Street Fighter 5. And there's a big part of me that's kind of wondering if I should hold back from getting regular Street Fighter 5 and just waiting for them to come out with the expanded edition with all of the characters and whatnot. But I will say this, the new character that they announced did look pretty cool. Long-sleeved kind of fighting guy. He looked like he could, do dodge and counterattacks really well. He looked pretty cool. He looked like a really interesting character, and I thought it was kind of cool that he looked like a new villain character. So, yeah, he looked really cool. When it came to the creator of the game, when he came out on stage, that was really funny. Like, that was really, really cute. It was, like, he was just radiating with how much he loved this game and how excited he was to be presenting it. And it was, again, like, it was really cute just to see him full of energy, like, being really hyped up for his game. And it's something that you don't really see too often when it comes to these press conferences, is just how excited that they are. Because a lot of the time you'll get, like, the false excitement, or an excitement that's been died down because they practice it so many times, or they get a little stage fright. But this guy was generally excited about this game, and he was also very excited that he was able to announce something that hadn't been leaked, which was pretty funny. The other kind of big thing with Street Fighter V was that there's 6 characters that they're going to be releasing within a couple of months after the initial game comes out. A lot of them were, like, main characters as well. Like, one of them was Guile, Guile's my main. Like, Guile is the character I like playing with the most, and he's been kind of reduced to being this extra character thing. Balrog was another one. But it was, because, like, the weird thing about it is that, yes, they say that these characters are going to be released in the game, or they can be unlocked through in-game abilities, like if you beat arcade mode so many times and whatnot, which is cool. I like that. I like that they're doing that. But there's also a DLC option where if you wanted to buy the characters outright, you could. That Because again, like I said in the last episode, I really hate having to pay for characters. Like, I think that's cheap. I think that's unfair. It's just another way for them to make money off of this game that we've already paid $60+ for. It's really frustrating, but at the same time, I really like that they are going to be releasing the characters through a method that doesn't involve me having to pay DLC for it. So that's cool, but at the same time, I really hate that they're even playing with the idea of DLC. Again, because it's just, DLC is the worst. It's just designed to take more money from your pocket and to just strip content away from games, and this is another example of that. But if they're going to be releasing more content, like if it's one of those things where, like, if you wait a couple of months for it, that's fine, but at the same time, I don't really care for that style, especially for a fighting game. Because, like, I think, like, the idea of releasing new content for the game, like, periodically after it comes out is a cool idea if you're, like, an RPG, where it comes out with extra bonus missions or new monsters or something like that, like, later on down the line. That's cool because that extends your playthrough. But if it's just, like, another character in a fighting game, that's just kind of lame. Okay, so after Street Fighter V, it went into the indie games thing. And at this point, I had another plane come in, and I had to put my phone in my pocket for a lot of it. I was able to look at it here and there periodically. Like, one of the things I remember seeing was the Fat Princess game that they're going to be coming out with, which is, again, another game I wasn't really all that interested in. But one thing I do think was pretty cool, though, that was through the indie games section, was the Adult Swim stuff. And it's interesting because, like, the moment that they said that Adult Swim was going to be coming out with a game studio, the first thing that I thought of was the Harvey Birdman game on the Wii and the PlayStation 2, where it was basically just a like a parody of the Phoenix Wright series through the Harvey Birdman characters. Granted, I like that game. It's really funny. Gameplay-wise, there's absolutely nothing there, but in terms of, like, another Harvey Birdman thing, it's funny. It's great. But what I was thinking of wasn't really so much just that, but of them being like, okay, so they're going to be coming out with, like a Rick and Morty game that's just a parody of, like, Elder Scrolls or something like that. And that kind of bums me out because I don't really... Just because you can make a game for a property doesn't mean that you should. And when it comes to a lot of the Adult Swim stuff, there's stuff that I like I said earlier, Harvey Birdman, and I do like Rick and Morty. Like, if you're going to do an Aqua Teen Hunger Force game, just don't. You know? But that's what I was thinking, what it would be. But that's not actually the case, because a lot of the games that they showed coming out from that studio look pretty cool. Like, they are, a lot of them are kind of like 2D Castlevania kind of shenanigans stuff, but it's good. Really interesting stuff and really high quality 2D art that they're using for a lot of these games as well. Like, I'm really impressed that they're doing games like that. I am really interested in trying out some of their games. One in particular was that one that was kind of set in medieval times where he's fighting dragons and stuff like that. Like, that looks really cool. So yeah, the Adult Swim stuff. I'm actually really interested in trying those out. Hopefully they're not too expensive when they come out, because that's always been kind of my problem with a lot of the indie games, is that I think they tend to be a little overpriced. You know, if the game quality is good, you know, maybe I'll pay like $15 for it or something, I don't know. But then, after that, Tim Schafer came out, and I really like Tim Schafer because he's like the only game developer whose name that I know, outside of like Miyamoto. Yeah, he came out and he said that, showed a new trailer for Day of the Tentacle, which looks awesome. Really excited about that one. And they also said they're coming out with a Full Throttle remake, which, phenomenal, awesome. I'm really happy. I love point and click games. Point and click games are my jam. And Full Throttle was always one that I really wanted to play, and I kind of missed the chance to. And the fact that they're coming out with an HD version, that's fucking awesome. I love that. I just freaking love that they're coming out with those two games. Again, like I fucking love point and clicks. I really, really do. Um, the more insane, the better. Especially with his style of humor. It's great. Like I'm really excited about those two games. But outside of that, he also went ahead and confirmed that yes, Psychonauts 2 is going to be on the PlayStation 4. Yes, yes, yes. I'm so excited about Psychonauts 2, you guys. It's not even funny how excited I am for that game. Like Psychonauts, no joke, is my favorite game. I fucking love Psychonauts. It's so damn funny. I love the gameplay. I find it challenging in sections. I find the characters really endearing. Just everything about Psychonauts I freaking love. I just that is just such a perfect game. And the fact that they're going to be coming out with another one after so many years of it just being a one-off title, that's exciting to me. Like I can't wait for Psychonauts 2. The crowdfunding thing is kind of sketchy, but honestly, again, like I'm just so happy to see that it's going to be a series that's going to be coming back on a new generation of platforms. I'm man, like that is a scenario where it is shut up and take my money, because I'm so happy about that. And on top of that, they also said that they're going to be coming out with a Psychonauts one-off game that's going to use the PlayStation VR stuff, which cool. I'll talk about VR here in a little bit, but yeah, that definitely seems like one title I would definitely pick up for VR. Again, because I do love Psychonauts. Like, if it's they didn't really show any kind of footage for what the VR thing would be. If it's more or less just like you being able to go through some of the characters' heads and getting to look around, that would be really cool and fun. So after Tim Schafer went up and left, there's a couple of more indie games that they talked about. Again, none of them really kind of caught my eye. I do know that they talked about the new King of Fighters game, King of Fighters 14, which that's really cool. But again, like at that point, I was finishing up fueling a plane, and I didn't really get a chance to see any footage from that. Sounded cool. I also know that another one that was coming out that kind of caught my attention a little bit was a Don't Starve sequel. Which the weird thing, because like again, I didn't actually get to see any footage from it. One of the big things they were saying was that this one's gonna have co-op player in it, but I was kind of under the impression that the first Don't Starve game already had co-op in it, so I wasn't really too sure what the big deal was there. Maybe the co-op thing is only exclusive to PC, and co-op is coming to the. Oh, hold on. Okay, so I'm back. Those were Mormons. My podcast just got completely derailed by a couple of Mormons, which fine, they were very nice people. They gave me an extra copy of Book of Mormon. They're going to be back on Monday to talk about it. Interesting. Uh, so, I got a little mentally derailed, so I'm just going to go ahead and move on to the next thing. Um, so to kind of go back to all of it, the next thing that I've got on my list that they went ahead and talked about was the Ratchet Clank remake. It's a remake of the first game, which I'm all for, but it's supposed to be more in line for what's going on in this movie that's going to be coming out next year. So yeah, if it's an actual Ratchet Clank game like the original trilogy, I'm all for it. It's been a while since we've had a good Ratchet Clank game. I really kind of like the approach that they're doing with this one, because not only is it just a HD. It's not just an HD re-release of the original game. It's like whole new missions, whole new side of the story. Because like one of the things I was kind of noticing just from the audio cues I was picking up on my drive home, Ratchet had his slingshot like really early on when he was getting Ratchet, which from the last time that I played the game, which was a couple of years ago, I don't remember you having the slingshot at that point in the game. So just that by itself tells me that there's a lot more going on in the game than what they're doing. So I'm kind of excited to play it. I mean, it looks gorgeous. I'm really looking forward to that movie because I do love the Ratchet Clank series. It sounds cool. Again, I didn't really get to see too much of it. So at that point, I was home, and so I was able to watch it again. And the Res HD version, or Res Infinite, came up, and that's awesome. I'm really glad that Res is coming back, because that was always a series I really, really wanted to play, because I do like music kind of based games, and I love that techno vibe and feel. But never got the chance to play it, because by the time I found out about the game and I wanted to play it, I think I came across it once at a GameStop, and it was over $100, so I didn't pick it up. Ever since then, I've never been able to play it. And yeah, I could torrent in and stuff like that, but I don't know. With something like that, I would rather have like an actual game version of it to play. So yeah, that's really cool that they're going to be doing that. And then we went ahead and got into the VR stuff. I'm really looking forward to trying out more stuff with VR. I think VR is really cool technology. I would love to see it implicated more into games, especially into more professional games. And I think with this VR, with the PlayStation VR, I think it's going to be more professional line than what the Oculus Rift. It's going to be a bit more streamlined than the Oculus Rift. That is kind of the thing with VR, and they even do say that during the press conferences, that you can really only you can't really experience what VR is like unless you actually put a headset on yourself, which that I completely and totally agree with. And I think trying to sell VR games through a 2D medium, like trying to watch something online through a press conference, I think you lose a lot of that and what the potential of it might be, which I think that does make it a lot harder to sell. But I think the moment that you get tech demos out there for people to go out and try, I think people would jump onto the idea a lot more. I think when you have people who are actually trying to implement that kind of technology, being able to take you to certain places and actually focus on gameplay, I think that would be really fun. And at the same time, I think that if you're doing like a first-person shooter, I think that would be perfect for it. So I'm really interested in seeing what they're able to do with it. And some of the stuff that they were coming out for it does look kind of interesting. But with the tech demo that they showed, like you had two guys on stage, and they're both wearing the headsets, and they've got the PlayStation Move thing, which I don't know anyone who actually bought one of the PlayStation Move things, like that Wiimote that has like their orange ball on the top of it. And like the idea of it is that you use those as like your hand movements, and in the game they were in this Tron-like setting where they were kind of throwing the Tron disc at each other. And the problem with that was that the demo didn't work. Like one of the guy's hands didn't show up, and like some of the aiming and stuff like that was kind of off. So that was kind of a clunky tech demo. It was one of those things where it was unfortunate that that happened to them, that they were kind of plagued with bugs. But I think with a lot of the other implications that you could do with VR, I have kind of faith in it. I think that, again, like I think that was just a bad demo that they were doing, because you could do a lot of really interesting stuff with VR. Just unfortunately, that was kind of a weird way to show that. And not only that, but like I'm not really sure if using the PlayStation Move controller things is a good idea. Like, yeah, that can help the idea of like you holding like when you look down and you see your hands in the VR space, sometimes if you're holding a controller and you look down and you're holding a gun, it can feel a little bit off. I can get that a little bit, but at the same time, I'd rather just be holding a controller and playing the game that way than actually having to, get up and do actual physical exercise. So, yeah. But outside of that, they announced a couple of games that were going to have VR in it. One of which was this zombie taxi thing. I can't remember the actual full title of it, but that one was probably the worst of everything that they showed at this particular press conference outside of that tech demo. Mainly because it looked like it was a mix between Crazy Taxi and Goat Simulator, which, in terms of games where it's bad physics because of funny shenanigans, I don't really... I have a hard time kind of supporting that kind of stuff because, it's supposed to be bad graphics for the sake of bad graphics, but at the same time, man, we've come a really long way since the days of, the PlayStation 1. I don't really understand why you would want to make a game that looks like that, or that has that many kind of physics issues with it. Like, yeah, they can be kind of funny, but when they're intentional, I think that's where the joke kind of stops. So, yeah, that one didn't really appeal to me all that much. And also just the idea of a zombie apocalypse where the zombies are the main people and they're just kind of being thrown from cars and stuff like that. Like, that's... I don't know. And, I'm also kind of burnt out on zombies at this point. And it's another zombie game. Like, yeah, there's a Crazy Taxi theme with this one as well, on top of it being VR. But... I don't know, zombies are just boring and just not interesting. But then they released probably one of the coolest things of the entire press conference, and that was this amazing title, which I love the title by itself, is 100-Foot Robot Golf. Okay, so what it is exactly what it sounds. It's a game where you play a game of golf with giant robots. And you're kind of running around the city it's like you hit the ball with your giant robot golf club and you send it towards where it needs to go. And after that, you have to control the robot to get to where your ball landed. And in between there is cities and stuff that you can destroy and other players. So that's cool. That's really fun. I really, really want to play that. That looks like it could be a lot of fun. Just needless destruction while trying to play golf, and it's interesting. It's a really interesting take on just giant robots and golf and everything else. And also towards the end, they make this Ava joke, but it kind of heavily implies that the dogs are the ones piloting this robot, which that's another layer of kind of batshit crazy that I kind of love about it. So I'm really excited about that one. It's just a short little trailer, and there's not really much you need to say outside of it's 100-foot robot golf. That's all that really needs to be said about it. So it's cool. I like it. And then after that, we had Ace Combat 7, which is cool. I never really get the chance to play Ace Combat games, but it's always been on my list of games to play. And that, it looks awesome. They show this really cool dogfight, and they even have this one shot of this person doing a halo jump in between this gunfight that's going on, or this dogfight. And again, all of it looks really cool. And on top of that, they're saying that it's going to have PlayStation VR support, which, if you're going to have PlayStation VR, doing an airplane game sounds awesome. Because I can think of a lot of the arcade games that I've gone to where you're in a chair that moves back and forth as you hold the controllers and stuff like that. Those typically tend to be airplane games. So I think having one be a flight simulator is awesome. I think that's a brilliant idea and choice and a perfect use of that technology. And, another Ace Combat game of a series that has been well proven at this point that's really cool. That's really awesome and kind of unexpected. Um, so yeah, I'm really excited about Ace Combat 7. I'd really like to pick it up and play it and try it, especially with VR. Just kind of going around, playing out my Top Gun fantasies and whatnot. But yeah, that was cool. And then another really big surprise happened, and that was New Yorkami 2. It looks pretty. It looks absolutely gorgeous. It's going to be on the PlayStation 4. It has to deal with like a child king that you have to protect. It looks cool. If you don't know what New Okami is, it's a game that was on the PlayStation 3 that was done by Studio Ghibli. And it's gorgeous. It captures their art style perfectly. And with it on the PlayStation 4 now, it just looks even more gorgeous than it did before. I actually haven't played the original Murakami game outside of a tech demo that I got from the PlayStation Store a while back when the game was originally going to be released. I remember not liking it. Like, the art style and everything else was fine, but I just had a really hard time getting into the combat. I don't know if that would still be the case today, but there's a part of me now knowing that there's going to be a second one, and if the second one looks really good, maybe kind of going back and picking up that first New Murakami game, because it is pretty cheap now, and trying to play through it again. But yeah, that's really cool. Again, like, it's a game that looks absolutely gorgeous. Like, it looks straight out of a Ghibli movie. Like, I think my favorite shot that they were doing was that there was a shot of the child king character crying, and just watching his eyes kind of well up in the Ghibli style, and then having the tears fall from his face in that way looked beautiful in CG. Like, it was a really gorgeous trailer. I think it took a lot of people by surprise, because I like kind of what Psychonauts 2 did a couple of days ago. That was a series that didn't really seem like it was going to be a series, and for them to come out and say like, hey, we're doing another one, that's really cool. That's really fun and exciting, and we're getting towards the end of everything that they were doing. They announced another couple of games here and there. One was another VR game that was called Golem. That was a pretty cool trailer. I don't really have much to say outside of that. Outside of just, it was kind of this cool trailer, this cool golem looking guy, and this girl who was in this bed, kind of like doing the same movements as the golem. Doesn't really kind of give you any clues on what the gameplay is going to be like, but again, like, it was a cool trailer, one that I would kind of suggest checking out. And the thing that they ended on was a game called Paragon, which was made by Epic Games, the people who did Unreal Tournament and the Gears of War games, I think they said. It's a MOBA, and I'm not very fond of those MOBAs. It's not really my thing. And I don't know, like, the trailer was kind of cool, I guess, but just that style of game, yeah. I mean, I used to really love Unreal Tournament back in the day, back when I used to play it on the PC, but it's been, I don't know, like, it was just one of those games that just didn't really capture my attention all that much. And on top of that, it was they stole the music from the first trailer, the Battleborn trailer, which I thought was kind of funny, and that was kind of the thing that was really surprising about it, was that this seems like Battleborn, but the characters are really generic, and it's a MOBA, which kind of makes or breaks that game. And I don't, because I kind of already thought there were already MOBAs on the PlayStation systems. So I don't really get why this one's going to be any better, outside of just the people who are making it. But yeah, and then it just kind of ended. Like, they showed that trailer, they showed that they were going to get instant access, and then the old man came up and said, like, go play some games. And it was done. And it just ended. And it was kind of sudden and shocking. It just kind of ended in that way. But as a whole, interesting. Like, I thought they released some really cool footage and games that I'm pretty excited about. I'd really love to see more of what they're going to do with Final Fantasy. I think it's cool that they're coming out with another New Murakami game, and a lot of the stuff in between, especially the Full Throttle HD. Now, in terms of things I was really kind of looking forward to seeing if they were going to have any new information on that they didn't say anything on. I think one of the big things I was expecting was that I think it was called Drawn to Death. I can't remember. They announced it last year at the PlayStation Experience, and the game has not been heard since. And the game that I'm thinking of, in case I'm getting the name wrong, is the third person shooting game that was styled to look like somebody's notebook. Um, it was one of those games that looked cool. I wouldn't mind seeing more of it, but I haven't heard anything since then, and it makes me kind of wonder if it just dropped off the face of the earth, or they released it and nobody said anything because the game was bad. So yeah, that's something I'm really surprised about, because at the end of that conference they were really kind of hyping it up because it was the last piece from that last year's, and we haven't heard anything about it since. And of course, I wanted more Kingdom Hearts footage, but at this point, we're probably never going to get any more Kingdom Hearts footage until the game actually comes out. Oh well, but yeah. So that was it. Thank you for listening to my ramblings. And I hope to see you guys next time around. This is Hitch signing out.